Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. I'm presenting you with a little artifact from my past. But way back at WrestleMania 18, Silverlight was in attendance. And a little bit of merchandise picked up was the Stone Cold Steve Austin bear. Now, for those of you who don't like teddy bears and those of you who don't like wrestling, stick around. This is actually going somewhere. Stone Cold's character at the time was that he was the one brave enough to stand up to the man being Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE. Or as you can see, the WWF way back then. That's how old this thing is. And they would do skits where Austin would do everything he could to drive McMahon nuts and cost him money and basically do everything that is our fantasy in life. We've all had shitty bosses. We've all had terrible people that we work with, and we'd love to give them the middle finger, tell them where to go, maybe kick them, maybe punch them, whatever it was. And Stone Cold was living those fantasies out right in front of us. It was the zeitgeist of the world. That was the world spirit. We were all praying for this revolutionary hero. And as time went on and the antics went on, they continued the same basic thing for years. And WWF/WWE made a lot of money out of it. This is where we lead into our topic for today. Subversion. See, while Stone Cold was supposedly standing up for the common people, the wrestler himself was becoming very rich. Because Vince McMahon, the owner, knew all he had to do was put him on TV and he was guaranteed huge ratings. He could charge more money to his advertisers. He could sell merchandise like this. And everybody pockets the money. Everybody gets richer. Aside from you and me who are spending the money. Excuse me. I spoke at length the other day about how President number 45 was trying to embody the zeitgeist of being the outsider, being the one who was going to come in and rock things and make change. But he didn't make any changes. As a matter of fact, he did more of the same. But he sold a lot of merchandise. He made a lot of money off of those hats and t-shirts and stuff like that. I mean, the president job doesn't pay a whole lot. It's like $250,000. I'm sure he spent that in the first week of his campaign. But here we can see a trend that's been developing since my generation and the generations that came after me were very young. We need a hero. We don't have anybody that's left in our lives. And this is a horrifying thing to admit. But this is why movies and everything seem so hollow to us. Marvel has worked out the perfect formula to keep us coming back. Star Wars is starting to figure it out. And the other movies are trying to do that too. And it's to give us these heroes that we can kind of relate to. They're super in one respect. And this includes, reporters and detectives and, just average people that they're superhuman in one respective. Look at Sherlock. He's been rebooted so many times, and the idea is always that he has superhuman intelligence. But ultimately, it's always about getting your eyes on their product, getting into your pockets, and either buying the merchandise, or buying the DVDs, buying the books, or paying for special access. They're taking what we want and subverting it into things that make them money. Hey, you want a Woodstock t-shirt to show that you're hip? No problem, that'll be $19.99. Hey, want one of those tap-out shirts to show that you're tough and you're not to be messed with? No problem, we got that the same price. Whatever your attitude is, we got exactly the merchandise that you need. And this is why the corporate multinational corporations will always be one step ahead of us. Even when they don't identify trends, they're very quick to capitalize on them. And I do mean capitalize. Look at this bear. Now, somebody probably spent about a half hour sewing that together, just guessing off based off what it is. I can't remember the price of it, but this was when the Beanie Baby stuff was just falling out of fashion. So while I didn't pay an extreme amount for it, I'm sure I must have paid $20 because everything at the Sky Dome was ridiculously expensive. A beer back then was $14. Yeah, it's $14 today in 2021, to say nothing about the 90s. But they have you there, you're trapped, and you're whipped up into a fervor by this idea that you have a hero. Well, we need a hero, and it's not coming from the corporate world. It'd be a very interesting book or TV show to see a properly marketed superhero. And the guy has no powers, he's just got the power of a corporation behind him. And to go through the realities of that life would be interesting. I might actually try it myself at some point, but I think that's beyond my ability to write. Because that's what we're being given, a pre-packaged image. Do you know Stone Cold was supposed to be the villain? But his antics in taking on the boss made him beloved in the hearts of many wrestling fans. We are being told who to root for. Hey, the next movie, there's going to be a female Thor. Really? Why are we getting that? Well, probably because the actor's paycheck is getting too fat and they want to give us the same thing, except a little bit easier on Disney's pocketbook, because God forbid the shareholders would have to lose out on any money. So they give us something that we think we want. And then we complain that movies are no longer interesting or creative. Our ideas of what is a hero have changed. I mean, we're going to take somebody like, don't want to use Malcolm X, that would be a bad example. But Martin Luther King Jr. Now, he did some unusual things, absolutely, but his core message never changed. That he wanted people to live in peace together. Look at Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill had his flaws, but at the same token, he lived in a very weird time in history where feminists were just becoming recognized, and he was a product of, the 19th century. The 20th century was all new territory for him. At the same token, he made some questionable decisions, but ultimately he's one that helped save the Western world that was under attack from Germany and from Japan at the time, who were working with 18th and 19th century values. We don't have heroes that are willing to stand up and say, this is my island and you're not going to invade it. We don't have heroes that are willing to say, I want to have a peaceful existence with everybody, and that's it. Gandhi, there's a man that went to prison a whole lot of times. But the same token, he wound up eventually getting his wish. If not himself personally, then vicariously through his family when they were able to take power in India. Gandhi's wish was, again, let's be peaceful. Let's buck this trend of hostility worldwide. But we're coming out of this pandemic into a seriously hostile situation. China is suddenly rearming, Japan is suddenly rearming, the United States is still spending at a clip that is, quite frankly, unbelievable. I am still not sure how they're sustaining this aside from the usual financial shenanigans, but they're still able to borrow and their credit is still recognized as good. Not many other countries can do that. Matter of fact, I cannot think of one off the top of my head. But what war are we being positioned for? There's so many weird things going on in the world right now. Elon Musk is getting ready to launch his Starship while NASA is bumping Artemis's date back by a year because they're having a problem with the rockets on it because they have humidity. Yeah, you're launching out of Florida. You might want to fix the problem with humidity, especially considering rockets are supposed to be able to operate in every environment possible. You notice how NASA is willing to subcontract SpaceX to go to the space station, but to go to the moon? No. They want to do that with their own flagship program. And it's just slavish devotion to old ideas. We need to move forward as a society. We can't accept made up, fake heroes. We need to have real ones. And that's what we're not understanding. Elon Musk is a hero in his own way in that he has revolutionized space travel. He's not showy, he's not in for the glitz like Jeff Bezos and stuff like that. He's actually a man with a plan. I've compared him before to a Bond villain. But the same token, this might be a Bond villain that we should get behind and really help push him to the moon. Because he's actually doing what he set out to do, whereas NASA has been screwing around since the 1970s when they got the space shuttle together. They have not had a clear direction since. And this Artemis program delay is ridiculous. Where is our hero in that program that's standing up and saying, we don't need Boeing, let's use SpaceX, let's use Blue Origin, let's use the other 10,000 companies out there trying to make a go of it in space. Yes, I am suggesting putting a villain on a pedestal, but at the same token, he's better than inaction. He's better than no action whatsoever. Where have all the heroes gone? We need somebody that's not a manufactured image. We need somebody who's going to come out and say, I am the one, listen to me, and we can get everything done. We need somebody to be able to say, we're not going to take it. No, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. Yes, I know where that lyric comes from, and I purposely invoked it. But the question is, we have to make sure it's not somebody who's going to say that and then advocate violence. Because that is the biggest problem, and I've mentioned this before. We do have a zeitgeist that's ready to rebel. This world spirit that we have is tired of taking it. And that is an easy way to transition into violence. When people are upset and bored and angry at the world, and God forbid, hungry and poor, they got nothing left to lose. And this is when people become radicalized very quickly. Surprised it didn't happen during the pandemic, and in fact it has kind of happened during the pandemic. Look at Toronto cancelling all sorts of programs because they can't find enough inoculated counselors. People are striking back in the only way they can, and that's with their own bodies. Now, these are only a couple ripples in the pond, but I'm kind of seeing a lot of potential for a lot worse things to happen. The leader of the NDP has recently said he will not cooperate with the Liberal leader. Great, so we're going to have another election. Because one guy who shouldn't be doing it thought he would be a hero. That means we're going to get the Conservatives in again, and you know what? That's something this country does not need at the present time, or ever for that fact. I'm sorry, Conservatives, in theory, they are good, but in practice, they are ludicrous. I see all these advertisements out right now saying, oh, we need to privatize the LCBO and start putting their products into grocery stores. Why? Why are we doing this? This makes no sense. First of all, the tax revenue from the LCBO is pretty good. Secondly, the LCBO offers some decent paying jobs. Another benefit, decent paying jobs are hard to find these days. A third thing is, the second you put these products on store shelves, you're not making them more available. The liquor store, Silverlight comes from a time when liquor stores were closed on Sunday, and they closed at like 6, 7 o'clock at night. You learn to work around that. Sure, a guest can drop by all of a sudden and say, hey, I brought the meal. You know, all you have to do is find some liquor. Yeah, it sucks not to have wine or whiskey, whatever, but the same token, any guest is going to understand that. Other than that, if it's Super Bowl weekend, for example, which is known for people drinking heavily, you know what you do? Here's what you do. Go to the store ahead of time. You plan, you use your brain. This corporate manufactured freedom is teaching us we need to have whatever available to us at all times. Cigarettes. Whose idea was it to put them in gas stations? I don't know about you, but smokers are not known for their self-control, and having smokes around gasoline is just an idiotic idea, in my opinion. Now, I admit, in Quebec, they sell cigarettes and they sell liquor in service centers, but Quebec has an entirely different mentality to the rest of the country. It's kind of refreshing, aside from the whole separatist nonsense, but I'm not dealing with that at the moment. I'm saying that one solution, one size doesn't fit all, no matter how much we want it to. We need to have more variability. We need to have some mutability in our response, by which I mean changeable situations. If you take your family responsibility office, your justice department, or whatever, they want to appeal to a precedent and say, that is what we did before, this is what we are doing again, even though the situations might not be the same. And most importantly, we need somebody with charisma. We need somebody with vision. We need somebody who actually wants to do something for the people. And I don't know who that is. And I'm afraid I never will. Let's not let this represent somebody. Let's allow it to become somebody. Somebody out there needs to be the new leader. I don't care if they're black or they're white or they're Asian or they're man or they're woman or LGBTQ2, whatever the hell needs to be added on there today. Got no problem as long as they are competent and ready to do the job. And they're ready to say, okay, the LCBO is not broke, let's not fix it. Oh, the highway system is in chaos? Has been for many years. Maybe we should fix this. And it's that clarity of vision that is missing from our leaders. All they can do is figure out ways to profit off of it or ignore it. Well, those are things that need to stop, and they need to stop now, because we've done enough pushing things off and ignoring them forever. You might not know this, but there's a reason why in the 1960s that commuter trains and cargo trains were going like 100 miles an hour down the tracks, and now they're down to 60 miles an hour. That's because the tracks have been neglected for over half a century, if not a century. No one's been maintaining them because they're railroad tracks. It's not a glamorous job, despite the fact that most of the stuff that you get comes in by truck, and that truck stuff comes in by train. It's an unholy balance. We need a visionary. We need someone to really stand up to authority, and not just to have some logo on their helmet or baseball cap, not just so that they can sell merchandise, but to actually say, hey, we need change. And they need to get the people behind them. This is the thing I fear I'm not going to see in my lifetime, or might not happen in any lifetime. We are too far in the clutches of the multinational globalists. And that's what scares me the most. What is a future like where all hope is monetized? All dissenting opinion is squashed or censored in one way or another. What is the future like when the only heroes that you have are fictional characters made up to entertain you for about an hour or so and then sell some toys to your kids? We need a hero or a heroine. I don't know why that word got stopped using aside from its association with a particular drug, but a heroine is not a bad thing. But no matter what, we need them. And it's long since passed that we had someone brave enough to stand up. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And we hope you have a fantastic day.